If you think Doomfist is annoying or difficult to play against, it's a skill issue on your end. Go.
I understand that like CC and like hard CC can be annoying to play into. Like if you're just getting like punched over and over, you just can't like do much against that. That's fine. But also you have Lamp, you have Suzu, you have Hinder. Like there's supports in particular complain way too much about Doomfist when they have like 40 different options to play into him. Yeah, just press your E ability and live.
So I do agree with Squiggle. Like so many other heroes have like, for example, Zuzu and like there's all these other abilities to counter, and then you still complain that's kind of on you.
I think why most of us are split up is because like it really depends on what hero you're talking about. Like what they're saying, like if it's Kiriko, you can just instantly teleport away, or Suzu, and like that's on you for dying to a Doom. But like if it's someone else that has like no mobility or a way to get out, I can see why it's annoying.
I think it was 100% a skill issue in Overwatch 1 because you could just hard counter Doomfist, and the more you knew about Doomfist, you could kind of just destroy him. But in Overwatch 2, sometimes I feel like some of these teammates just like perma charge Doomfist punch, and then you're just like one-shot comboed from across the map because it moves like a bullet train at you, and there's not much you can do about that if your teammates are just like kind of, it's just their fault, you know?
I get what you're saying, but I think some people conflate how difficult someone is to play against and how like fun it is to play against. I think for the difficulty part with Doomfist, is problem is that you can play perfectly against the Doomfist, not shoot his block, and then you have your Zenyatta from the backline just wailing a 300 damage right click, and it fully charges him. Then you're the one that gets punished for it. That's annoying, and you can't really do anything about that. And as for the comment about the old Doom, like I agree that like he was weak, but that doesn't mean he wasn't frustrating to play against and wasn't annoying to play against, because the skill check to beat him wasn't that high, but if you failed it, you would instantly die. Whereas most of the heroes, it wasn't like that. So that's why I think people like get mixed up between those two things of like how difficult it is to play and how like obnoxious it is to play against.
Is there anybody who would like to change their stance after hearing other people speak?
Well, I agree with Chipsa. Like, let's say a Kiriko is playing against a Doom, and they're just getting punched on cooldown. And then, I mean, like, they can TP away, but then the Doomfist can just slam onto them, and if their team isn't helping them kill the Doomfist, then I see how that can be really annoying.
So I'm going to give you guys 7 minutes on the timer, and then you're just gonna take it away and go.
Wait, I have a question for Cream and Chipsa. If it's not like a skill issue playing against them, then what is it? Like, there's always an option to deal with Doomfist. Like, it makes it seem like there's no option to deal with Doomfist with the way you guys are explaining things.
I would say that it depends on what your perspective is. You're talking as an individual, which I think is what we're all talking here, because I think we're all talking about solo queue, right? Mm-hmm. So you can't control whether your Soldier 76 shoots a rocket into the block, right?
Yeah.
Which means that you then are going to get, but then you might be the one that gets punished for it. So there's nothing you can do about that, and unless you're, hacking into the mind virus and controlling everyone at the same time, it's not going to work that way.
I mean, if he has some powered punch, he's going to go for it. He's kind of just predictable, and you can punish him when he does go for it.
Yeah, but
like there are 4 targets he can go for here. All of the squishy targets are viable options for an amped punch because it's that powerful. And if someone else on your team amps it up, what are you going to do about it? You don't know who he's going to go for.
I think
he's got 4 options.
I think it just depends who you're playing. For example, like if I'm playing Doom, I actually give the enemy Doomfist Empowered Punch on purpose because I know he's going to try to go for somebody in the back line, and I just punish him for it by punching him back. Just stop him from getting a kill. And
I mean, look, I think that your perspective is like a super non-realistic one. Like in the heat of the battle, like these things, like it's not just as simple as, oh, like he has a power punch, I'm not going to do this. Like, because half the time he's going to commit half his cooldowns in your face, right? Mm-hmm. And then you're going to bait out his block, and then you're going to punish him after the block. Your teammate then shoots the block. You've made the right play, and you've just got to hope that your teammates don't empower the block. And if they do, then you die, and it sucks. But that's not your fault. And you just sit there, you take that away, you say, you know what? I sat there and said, I don't really do much wrong there, and yeah, I'm still dead. And that's what it comes down to. The same with Genji deflect, right? Happened to me the other day. There's a Genji just deflected in my face. I don't shoot him, and my Widow just pops a shot right into him, and it hits me in the head and kills me. And I'm like, you sit there like, well, I'm the one who got punished, but did I die for it? No. And I think that is bigger on Doomfist than it is on most heroes.
That kind of line of thinking as well, because correct me if I'm wrong, all 3 of you are high GM, right?
Yeah.
Squibble, where do you play it?
I used to be in Overwatch 1. I'm not.
Okay, here's the
One thing
kicker.
from what?
I play in the medals. I see all of this, everything we've just talked about now about the power turn and just you being punished for something else your teammates did to the Doomfist. That's commonplace in the medals. It's not a skill issue on the individual's part because you've done it all right. If I were to go 1v1 the other Doom, I don't give him empowered. I just stand there and wave at him because I think it's funny. And then lo and behold, my Widow in the backline is like, oh, a free shot, pop. And I'm like, oh, fuck. Now the Doom's empowered. I'm going to die.
Yep.
And I've got nothing to work with. I did it right, but I was punished for it.
I think it's fair. It's literally just like the ability is designed to punish stupid players. So if like a stupid player does something, like who's on your team and you get punished for it, it feels really bad. But that's also the intention of the ability. Like, I understand how it can be frustrating. Though.
But no one's arguing that like if I shoot the Doom block and he punches me, like no one's making that argument that like that's not a skill issue. That is a skill issue. The point is that's not the only way he can get empowered punch, right? There's times where he can get empowered punch from your teammate shooting him. There are times where there's just people spamming and he just walks in front of the spam. You know, Sojin throws her E and you just walk into it, block, you have full empower punch. There's so many ways that it can happen in ways that you don't do anything specifically in that case. And it even boils down to a lesser degree, I'd say. Sometimes you can get hit by the AoE of the empowered punch when you're not the one getting punched. You're out of the LOS of the punch, but because the AoE is so big, it can actually hit you. Now, obviously that's a lesser degree, but that still does happen. So that's just my opinion on that. So like Doomfist is a hero that I agree with you in the sense that if you were playing in like a 5v5, right, it would be a skill issue as a team, but we're not talking about that. We're talking about as individuals.
That makes sense.
I still feel like there's just an option to deal with the person getting empowered punch. Like let's say your teammate feeds the enemy Doom's block all the time and he goes for empowered punches and he hits somebody. There's always an option to make it where they don't at least die from getting hit by the empowered punch and like, well, not getting hit by a empowered punch, but like from the upcoming primary fires. So, like there's always an option to stop yourself from dying. But that relies on your team a little bit more.
That's just not true though, because like, okay, if you're playing Kiriko, you can Suzu, or you're playing Baptiste, you can Lamp. What if you're playing Soldier 76? What are you gonna do then? Walk and stand in front of the left clicks? That's not gonna work. Like that only works if you play specific heroes. It does not work in the general. Like you have to look at it overall. You have to look at it from a broad perspective. The vast majority of heroes don't have a way to stop the Doomfist from either killing them or killing a teammate from someone else's mistake.
I think it just depends on your comp and how things are being played. It's just different in every situation. Like there's many times I'll go for an empowered punch, but there's like a break on like the other side that just throws a pack and like that's it. I can't do anything about that.
So
I mean, yeah, sure.
Do change that up because if you do happen to, one of your teammates does like give the Doom empower when we've done everything right, depending on the comp. If it's say like Orisa, Echo, Pharah, Mercy, I don't know what support's the most painful right now. Kiriko, all of that. We don't have realistically much to go on in that comp unless you want to punch the Pharah or the Echo out of the sky and be stylish. So comps like that will change the game, but how often do you actually realistically come into a game and then, oh, we've won a fight, we've lost a fight, they've recognized I'm on Doomfist and they've all entirely counter-swapped for Doomfist? That doesn't happen.
No, it doesn't happen.
It's a meme because like once in a blue moon it will happen, but generally speaking that just doesn't happen. It's blown way out of proportion that's even a thing.
Like people counter swapping?
Whole team comps counter swapping because Doom's kit allows him more or less to counter counters as well. He has so much agency to do whatever he wants that even if you're counter swapped for him and you play right, he's got the tools and got everything there. And if your teammates feed into that, depending on how good the Doom is, it doesn't matter.
I just feel like it just depends on the situation.
I mean, I agree, but I think there's more, like, if you look at the totality of the heroes in the game, there's more heroes that are in a situation where they can't help at all. Like, if you're looking at a Kiriko complaining, I would agree with you, but for the main, like, the vast majority of the cast, it's just not the case. There's just times where you sit there and you say, there's nothing I could have done there, and that never feels fun.
I still think it just depends on the character you're playing, your positioning.
But like, okay, what characters can stop? Let's say a Doomfist punches your teammate into a wall, or is about to punch your teammate. What characters in the game can save that Doomfist? Like, let's assume you're not using an ult because the Doomfist is not using an ult, right? What characters
save
can
the
save
Doomfist or save the punch target?
Save the person getting pinned.
It depends on the
Just in general.
players on the team.
In general.
Like Suzu, Lamb, Bab Shift, Brig Whip, Doom Punch, even Orisa Javelin, Diva right click. It's probably more. Even like maybe even
So,
Hack
but you-
too, just to stop us from escape a little bit.
So you've named like I don't know what, like 5 heroes there.
I mean, there's probably more that I can't think of right now.
Some of them I wouldn't grant you. Like I don't think a BAP shift would save a target. Like I don't think it would. If you're good enough with your left clicks, it's not going to save a target. But even
I mean,
even
if
if
you're
I grant
close
you like
enough with a
5 or
shift, you can
6,
right click.
I mean, how many heroes are there in the game? Like 30 or something?
37, I think.
It's 37. So like, even if I give you 10, that's still like a third of the cast. So
A majority of those casts are designated to the tank roles or
the support roles. It's mostly
or like 3
mostly
supports.
Yeah,
Like
like obviously
about it,
you
only
could-
like
you
3
could
supports
know
and the
that-
rest of the tanks that can stun him out of whatever he's
Yeah,
doing.
exactly. You could nano him or EMP him or something, but then you're committing an ult, right? Like for a play. So like that's the point. Like the vast majority of the cast just can't stop that from happening. And the fact that you're not the one doing anything wrong, that's the point I think that people get frustrated at, which I think is perfectly justified. I mean, you probably know what it's like sometimes. You know when you fight like a Doomfist 1v1 and you have him dead to rights, right? Like he has his block and then your teammates shoot his block. And then he ends up getting a punch and gets away or kills you or something. Like that just feels awful.
I just feel like that's just a skill issue.
Yeah, but it's not a skill issue from your perspective, which I feel like I think we all agree here that we're not talking about it as a team, we're talking about as an individual, because we're basically
I mean, like if you're
players.
if you're
We're solo
alone,
queue
you
players.
get caught off by empowered punch. There's nothing you can really do about it. But I think that's just like a positioning issue. Like if there's like a low,
Well, given how loud
I think
the
it just
audio
depends
is,
on the
unless he hits
situations.
a god punch from across the map, given how loud the audio is, you can hear that thing across the map as he charges it. That audio is not changed across the game. It's loud as shit.
and the visuals on it as well. Like you know he has empowered, so you can try to position a little bit better if you think he's gonna go for it. You can also bait it out by pretending you're in a bad position.
I mean, sure, but these are
And
these
then-
are all hypothetical situations that the vast majority of the time just aren't going to happen in the game. That's why
Also,
Doomfist
you
gets
also
value.
you also say position better, but then we add diagonals into the mix and corner punching and all that little tech you and I have made the devs refine. How do you counter getting punched around a corner? You've positioned out of his line of sight, but we can still punch them because we made that a thing.
I mean, you're kind of gambling. You can't see. You either get the punch or you don't. If you're going for a wall slide punches, you're gambling. You're gonna hit them. You're making a prediction.
Is there like a consensus? Like, is this a agree to disagree type thing, or what's
mean,
kind of like our consensus?
I
for the
agree with
debate?
them, but like I think it's just situation dependent. Like every
If
situation.
it were based around the team discussion, we'd probably be on the other side. Chipsa and I'd probably be on the other side. There are skill
Yeah,
issues
but-
in
yeah.
team
For the most
coordination
part, I would
to
agree with
counter
that.
Doom. But for individual perspective,
Which I mean,
Yeah.
I don't think we're talking team perspective here.
No, yeah,
Like,
we're talking.
everyone here plays solo queue, right? Everyone, like, no one
Yeah.
plays pro play, so we're all talking
Yeah.
from an individual's perspective, which is really the only, I think, relevant factor here. So I just think obviously there's times where that's the case, but if you compare it to most other heroes, it's not really like that. You know, like a Winston isn't really going to kill you because your teammates empowered the Winston, or it doesn't really work like that. Whereas it does for Doomfist, which I think is a frustrating perspective of the hero.
So when you have empowered punch, who do you go for? Like you usually go for a target that's either out of position that you could punish, where nobody else can really have that much follow up.
I mean, that is an impossible question to answer. Who do you go for? Because it's entirely dependent on the situation. Like, I mean, if there's backliners that you can punch, you go for them. If not, you just use it to pressure tanks. I mean, it's such a
alternatively,
very
such a
varied
AoE,
question.
because the blast back AoE is actually so big. It's 11 meters deep, but 11 meters behind your punch target is the depth of that punch, and it's like 6 meters wide and 5 tall. It's got a weird size, but it's huge. You can literally like farm empowered and then just punish the entire team. So because you say 4 people on the team play correctly, and one dumbass is just constantly shooting the block, he can just use that empowered punch to control the entire team if they play grouped up together, because it's that comically big.
I mean, it's like the same principle as like the old "don't shoot the Zarya bubble" meme, right? It's the same thing, but I think it's like even more so, because the Zarya bubble, like a good Zarya is always going to get fed, right? But like there's times, and I think this happens for sure, when like let's say I don't know, you're playing Cassidy with like a Zen next to you, right? And then the Doomfist jumps in behind you, slams, and then has his block up. And that guy, that if you do not shoot his block, he's dead. But if you do shoot his block, he's probably going to kill both you guys, right? Like let's just say soldier, like because let's say Cassie has this nade, right? Obviously, so let's just say soldier instead. Like let's say that you're the soldier in that situation. He puts his block up, you immediately stop shooting, maybe hit one bullet into his block, right? Which is just human reaction time. Then your Zen just decides, you know what? I don't care. I'm just gonna blast him, and then he ends up killing you both. Like that doesn't really happen in any other hero, and I think that's my fundamental point. That is just not that's annoying and frustrating to play against, and there's not even that's a specific situation. There's other things about the hero that are frustrating as well, like having your entire team punched, like stunned against the wall, which can happen, or multiple people, is not really that fun to play against. It's the same as, you know, when you get like Orisa speared, like it hurts your soul a little bit, right? Now obviously it happens less with Doomfist because you have to get the Empower Punch for it to work and blah blah blah, but it's still a very frustrating experience.
I mean, I can agree with that part with like the Zen feeding the block. Like you're not having control there, but I feel like that's just certain situations again. Like I agree with your situation, but I also agree with like my situation. Like it just depends. It's different every
But
time.
that situation is the whole point of the discussion.
Yeah, like I think
Saying,
I agree.
Saying
Like,
the discussion, the base of the discussion is dependent on the discussion is kind of like what?
It
We're
just
going in
depends.
circles at that point.
obviously, I think my case is an extreme case, right? Like I'm not going to say that happens all the time, but I think there's
Oh, you should
so
come play
many
in the metal ranks.
times.
That happens all the time down here.
Like you
That's
play
why
some
people
games,
hate him still.
You get some games where no one feeds your block and you feel so useless, right? And you get games where people just like it always for me it's like specific players just shoot your block, right? And they end up screwing their team over in a way like that is incredibly common. Like obviously the situation where you dive with two people, blah blah blah, like that situation is pretty rare. But you're standard in the neutral, you block, and then you get your Empower Punch. Then all of a sudden you're a massive threat. That's really common, and I think that's, and then often what happens is the Doomfist is in, you know, Antarctica and punches you across the map and stuns you and one-shots you, and it just doesn't feel fun.
Alrighty, so I let y'all run past the timer because it was really interesting topics y'all were covering, but so we just kind of, I guess, agree to disagree overall, but there's some points y'all see eye to eye on, kind of the consensus I'm getting.
I don't agree with anything QuakedOn says.
To the 1, to the 1, to the 3. I play easy mode, and I play to win. I love to die, and I like to BRB. All systems checked out. Group up with me. 2 to the 1, to the 1, to the 3. I'm here to party. GG. A giant gorilla can keep up with me. You can't